What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over my updated Abyssal Lord AFK method in the actual dungeon. This method is probably the single best Slayer XP task in the entire game. You're able to get anywhere from 2.5 to 3 mil XP an hour here. So yeah, stay tuned if you want to be getting obscene Slayer XP rates. So one important thing to note for this method is if you come here to Fort 4 and 3 and you build the tier 3 guardhouse, you can see here, these are the requirements: 95 construction, unwelcomed guest, and these frames. You will also need to build the lower tiers as well. But if you build the tier 3 guardhouse over here, this gives you a 3% chance per rank to execute your Slayer target if you use an ultimate ability. And because of how we are doing this task, this is incredibly strong with both magic and necromancy. I've seen my Slayer XP go well above 3 mil an hour for short periods of time if I get good insta-kills. So it's ridiculously strong to build this for this task. And basically, the way that this works is because Death Skulls hits multiple targets multiple times, it has a bunch of chances to be insta-killing the target. And because we're resetting it with Living Death, it'll like just insta-kill a ton of targets. And same thing with Omni Power with Greater Chain. Greater Chain can chain the ultimate to multiple targets and insta-kill multiple at the same time. The lower tiers don't do this at all. It's only from the tier 3, so make sure you're getting the tier 3 guardhouse for this method if you can. One very helpful tip for Abyssal Demons is you can force an Abyssal Demon task every single day here with this Mask of the Abyss. All you have to do is wear it when you get a task from the Slayer Master, and as long as you're wearing it and you haven't already used your forced task per day, you can see here I get a option to force the Abyssal Demon task. This can be very good for a lot of people who want to be maybe doing one Abyssal Lord task per day and be slowly grinding out their Slayer XP. It's just really helpful to be getting this task because obviously this task is one of the best tasks in the entire game. So definitely be forcing your task every day if you want that massive Slayer XP. So in order to get to the Abyssal Lords, what we end up doing here is if you have this enriched Pontifex ring, you can teleport here to Seniston. I don't know exactly which tier you need for this, but you should probably just go and get the highest tier ring. But you can see here, we teleport to Seniston, and then we go through these gates here to the north, and then we run past the little Zuck hole over here, and we go over here to this little you can see there's this church-looking building thing over here with the little cross thing on the top. And this actually has an elevator lift. You can see operate asylum elevator. And this will bring you to the Abyssal Lords here. And what we do is we go all the way through this dungeon to get to the Abyssal Lords. If you've killed these before, you can unlock like a key to unlock this gate here. It drops from the Abyssal Lords themselves. If you don't have the key though, you will have to go all the way around the dungeon here. You see you go all the way around and it'll come out right here. But if you do complete the lift thing, you can come over here and put a rope here, and then you know, it makes it a little bit faster to get to the dungeon. Moving on to the preset with this method, you can see on screen here we have a magic as well as necromancy setup. To start off, the familiar is just a blood reaver to spam poison damage. And then for the other section, we just use Coroming 4 with Greater Chain to help boost our AoE damage with magic if you're using that. But with Necromancy, obviously you don't need that. There are a lot of other items that you can use with this method, which we'll get into here in a second. But for the gear preset, you can see we are using Crypt Bloom or Death Warden armor. You really do need to be using the corresponding set of tank gear to make these methods work out. Basically, with magic, what we do is we use Animate Dead as well as Soul Split. And then with Necromancy, we use Darkness with protection from magic on. And again, you pretty much need to have these sets of gear in order to make this work. I tried to get this to work with the first Necromancer robes, and it just wasn't very safe. And, you know, it just wasn't that great. Additionally, if you are using the Necromancy setup, you do have to have Enhanced Devoted 4 and maybe even the Devoted 4 perks on your gear. Otherwise, again, this will fail. So definitely be using what you see here for the armor. As far as the weapons are concerned, you should be able to get away with tier 90 necromancy weapons, and you should be able to get away with something like a knock staff for magic. I would highly suggest using a staff for magic just because greater concentrated blast is a little weird on Revolution, and the staff with Sonic Wave just seems to work a little bit better, but you should be able to get away with tier 90 weapons fine, maybe even tier 88s with magic. For the inventory, it's very basic, just some overloads, weapon poison, the cannon. We have some Quirm and Lantidime incense sticks, and then we just have some teleports to get back to the Slayer Master, to get to this dungeon, etc. But mainly, I am going to be talking here about the other items you can be using and the additional support you're going to need. So for the additional support you're going to need, the Fury of the Small Relic is absolutely required for this. You do need to be getting as much adrenaline as possible, and kind of going along with that, the Conservation of Energy relic is also incredibly good here. You also are going to need the passive Ring of Vigor. And then finally, if you don't have the Archaeology level to use Conservation of Energy, you can actually swap to a Ring of Death instead of the like a Luck of the Dwarves ring. And this hopefully will be able to get you to the adrenaline threshold to make this really start working properly. Like I said, the adrenaline is incredibly important with these methods because basically with magic, we want to be getting Sunshine, Tsunami, and Omni powers out as much as possible. And then with Necromancy, we want to be getting to Living Death as well as spamming as many Death Skulls as possible. So like I said, the adrenaline is very important, and you will be needing to, hit those adrenaline thresholds to really make this work. Some other stuff that you can use here if you don't want to use, say, like the Ectoplasmator and the Demon Horn, is you can switch to a Blood Amulet of Fury as well as the Powder of Protection, and then the Powder of Penance as well. And that should be able to get you to the prayer threshold to never have to upkeep your prayer. And then the Powder of Protection, obviously you don't need that with magic because you're soul splitting. But if you are using Necromancy, you might want to have that as well. It will help you out. But from what I've found with the gear setups that I've been using, I didn't actually need those things, but they could be really, really nice to have if you're struggling just a little bit. So, like I said, with these gear setups, you probably don't want to downgrade it too much because it can be a little bit sketchy if you downgrade even a little bit. So yeah, definitely be using what you see here. And then finally, you are absolutely going to want to have the Demon Slayer perk. For the Necromancy setup, as you can see, like I showed in the preset section, we do have Death Warden. There are a few perks that you're going to need here, and that is Enhanced Devoted for, as well as Most Likely the Devoted for perk itself. These seem to help out quite a bit. And then you also are going to absolutely need to be using the Vampirism Aura. The little bit of extra healing you get definitely is required for this method. You probably could get away with tier 90 weapons as well. I don't think you actually need the tier 95s. So in order to start this up, we put the cannon here, like I showed, directly in the center of the room. And then we want to be using Sorrow as well as Pray Magic here. So make sure you turn those on. And then you also are going to need to be using the Darkness Incantation. And then obviously start up your God Book, turn on your Overload, use your Weapon Poison, and then you can start up the cannon. And then I like to stand directly in the center of the cannon. With Necromancy, you do end up getting pulled kind of all over the arena. That is how you start up this method. With this method, as you can see, the way that this works is the cannon tags all of the creatures. They hopefully will teleport close like this guy just did, like that one just did. When you do damage to them, they will teleport on top of you. And then what we do here is we use Living Death, and it will reset our Death Skulls, and Death Skulls will do all of the AoE damage, as well as you can see there, it insta-killed that one. And it will basically just bounce to all of these creatures, insta-kill a couple of them, and do massive amounts of AoE damage on top of that when it doesn't insta-kill them. And that is how we do this method. And then obviously we try to build some stacks so we can use our Volley of Souls and get massive damage from that as well on a single target. And yeah, this method is really, really strong. It seems to be better than the magic method with Greater Chain even, or at the very least it seems to be pretty similar in terms of kills per hour. You can see it does occasionally move your character. It's usually not that big of a deal because you stay within this little range here. So even if you do move, it's not that big of a deal. One little thing to note is you can see your HP does start to dip a little bit here. Generally, I find you don't actually ever die if you have Enhanced Devoted and Normal Devoted. But if you do notice your HP gets below about 3,000 or so, you can manually cast the Devotion ability and it will be able to keep you alive. You can also obviously just use the Excalibur like you see here, and that will pretty much keep you alive if you use it on cooldown as well. But from what I've been able to tell, your character pretty much will be able to fully sustain their HP with the Ghost as well as Sacrifice abilities, and I haven't had a problem with the character dying or signing or anything like that. So as long as you have what you see me having, you should hopefully not ever have a problem. So as far as the rates are concerned with Necromancy, I've seen this go as low as 300 kills per hour when I was getting literally no insta-kills, but I've also seen it go as high as 360 kills per hour when I was getting a fair amount of them. So that probably comes out to about 320 kills per hour average. And if you're getting 320 kills per hour, that comes out to about 2.6 million Slayer XP an hour, about 1.2 million Necromancy XP an hour, and then about 32 million GP per hour. So this is probably one of the best Slayer XP tasks in the game, and it's pretty decent GP as well. For the magic setup, it's very similar to the Necromancy setup. We just put down our cannon here in the same place, and then we turn on Soul Split as well as Animate Dead, Affliction, or Torment. And then we use the Exsanguinate spell and obviously turn on your Overload, Poison, Book, all that good stuff. And then with this method, you can see here, we will start up the cannon and then we will stand directly in the center of the cannon. Ideally, your character shouldn't really ever move, but they might move occasionally with this setup just because the max spawn range of the Abyssal Lord will sometimes move your character. But anyway, you can see here, we start up the cannon, step inside of it, and then we start AoEing these guys down. We should be able to get a fair amount of AoE damage here with Greater Chain and Omni Power, as well as things like Magma Tempest and stuff like that. So it definitely gives you pretty decent kills per hour. I find this method is about the same kills per hour as Necromancy. It might be slightly slower kills per hour than Necromancy though, because you're not always going to be chaining your Omni Powers. You just kind of chain some random stuff sometimes. And a lot of the times your chain won't work because you kill something with chain, or stuff like that does definitely happen. So the kills per hour I find to be maybe slightly lower overall than Necromancy, but I've also noticed it has the potential, especially if you're using Coroming, to have a higher peak kills per hour. But I think Necromancy is slightly better. You can see on screen here I put the kills per hour at about 315, which gets you to about 2.5, maybe 2.6 million XP per hour, and then about 31.5 million GP per hour. So it's still pretty decent, and it's by no means necessary like a bad method. It is also worth noting that with this method, you can do this without Greater Chain, but I find you get pretty low kills per hour with that method, somewhere around 260, which gets you about 2.1 million Slayer XP an hour. So that does work as well, but if you're going to be doing that, I would probably just use Necromancy. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys like this Abyssal Lord updated video. It's a little bit better than, it's a little bit more modern than my older video, so hopefully you guys appreciate the updated guide. I did make a video on these things when they first came out a really long time ago, but I haven't made anything since. And I definitely think it's worth making this because of the Necromancy setup. It was honestly very surprising to me how well that Necromancy setup compared to the Magic setup with Greater Chain. So yeah, hopefully you guys like this video. If you made it this far in the video, definitely drop a like on it. It does really help promote this channel to more people. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.